Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. We are around 60 games into the season here in year number 3. We're about to kick off the month of June, and we're playing fine. We're 30-29. We're coming off a 10-game road trip within the division against 3 really good teams, and we did kind of struggle within that stretch, losing 7 of our last 8 games. So we don't exactly have a ton of momentum going into the month of June. And we've got a pretty tough schedule this month. We've got a lot of really good teams we're going to be facing off against. At the start of the last episode, we were the number 1 wild card in the NL, and now we're a game and a half back of the 3rd spot. So we've got some ground to make up, and obviously there's still plenty of time. We still have over 100 games left on the season. We made a trade in the last episode, and one that I'm really excited about. We acquired Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays in exchange for a few prospects. I think Yandy Diaz is exactly what this lineup needs. He's somebody who can get on base, he doesn't strike out a lot, he draws a ton of walks, and hits for good average. I think having him at the top of the order for guys like Arise and Chisholm to hit after works really well. As for the pitching, it has certainly been a mixed bag. We've had some guys perform well, other guys not so much, and some players are going to have their jobs on the line today, depending on how they perform, and I am expecting certain players to perform well. So after our rough stretch to end the month of May, we're certainly looking to bounce back, and one of the reasons why we struggled was the back end of the rotation, Jesus Luzardo in particular. His season started off okay, but over his last 3 or 4 starts, it has gone downhill rather quickly. Luzardo throughout this series has been pretty disappointing, and with a lot of the young guys in AAA performing pretty well, we'd be hard-pressed to not consider calling one of them up for Luzardo. So we're going to see how these next 2 series go at home against the White Sox and the Diamondbacks before we make any big decisions. And in Jesus Luzardo's start, he broke his leg. Yeah, so I guess the decision with Luzardo has been made for us. He's going to be out for 1 to 2 months with a serious leg injury. And the unfortunate thing is that he actually had pitched really well in his one start. It was a game against the Diamondbacks. We won 11-1. Luzardo with 5 innings, only allowing 1 run. But then he broke his leg. So he's going to be out for a little while, and we're going to need somebody to replace him in the rotation. I thought about Max Meyer, but he's hurt too now, so it can't be him. I think it's going to be Braxton Garrett. He'll be our placeholder. He might not keep that spot. Hint, hint. But for now, Braxton Garrett will slide into the rotation. We rebounded nicely and started the month of June off pretty strong, winning both series. We're now 34-31, and we are now tied with the Mets for the 3rd wild card spot in the NL. We're now going to simulate through this series in San Diego. The Padres are one of the many teams in the National League wild card race, so how we perform here will be very telling. We ended up splitting the 4 games, not bad, so we go 2-2 there. We are now 36-33, leading up to a tough stretch with the Astros, Phillies, and Braves next on the schedule. Got to assume the Braves are going to pick it up, while the Astros and Phillies are 2 of the best teams in the league. Sixto Sanchez is currently penciled in as the starter, but he will not stay as the starter. So we're first going to send Garrett down to AAA, and we're going to call up Gennaro Miller in his place. I think it's time. I think he's ready. I had talked about in the minor league episode that I think Miller has earned the opportunity to pitch in the big leagues. We just didn't really have a spot for him, and now we do. The fun part about Gennaro Miller is that he's not just going to pitch. He is a two-way player. He has had a solid season offensively. I think he's more of an asset as a pitcher, but we will give him opportunities in the big league lineup as a two-way player. So he will be called up to the big leagues. We are going to insert him into the starting rotation, and we're going to play him every so often. He's not going to be an everyday player, but he will start somewhat frequently for now at DH, and once he gets comfortable, we might have him playing in the outfield a little bit. So we're going to hop into his debut here on the road against a very good Houston Astros team. And obviously this is a pretty exciting day for our Miami Marlins, as one of our best prospects will not only be making his big league debut, but he's going to be doing it in a very unique way. Gennaro Miller will be the starting pitcher today for the Marlins, and he will also be DHing, hitting 7th in the lineup. Miller looks to join Shohei Ohtani as the only true two-way player in today's game. It's pretty unlikely he will ever be as good as Shohei Ohtani, but if we can have a fraction of what Shohei brings to the table with Gennaro Miller, then I think we could be getting ourselves a total stud. Miller's been solid this year offensively, but I'm really excited about him as a pitcher. He's really improved on the mound over these last few seasons at AA and AAA since he was signed in early 2023. Framber Valdez will be starting for the Astros. Valdez, I feel like, is one of the most underrated pitchers in the game. He doesn't really get talked about enough as one of the best in the business, but he really is. This Marlins lineup is in for a tough one today. Nick Fortes batting in the 2-hole, has a full count, and Fortes will draw a walk. So that's an early base runner for the Marlins. We'll see if they can get some early runs across here against a very good Astro lineup. Luis Suarez is up now, hitting .354, and he draws a walk as well. That's a tough pitch to lay off. Honestly, kind of looked like he was in the strike zone. So now Jazz Chisholm has quite the opportunity, and he grounds it right to short for an inning-ending 6-4-3 double play. Jazz is one of the best clutch hitters in baseball, but that was not necessarily clutch. So let's take a look at the new kid on the block, the 19-year-old lefty switch-hitting designated hitter out of the Bahamas. Gennaro Miller wearing number 0, making his big league debut on the mound, and he will get a plate appearance in the next inning. His first at-bat is against future Hall of Famer Jose Altuve, who strikes out on the curveball. Not a bad start for Gennaro Miller. Now he has to face off against Yordan Alvarez, who might be the best offensive player in the game, and he goes down looking. Gennaro Miller retires the side, striking out Jose Altuve and Yordan Alvarez as we move into the second. One away here for the first baseman, Woody Landry, continuing to have a very strong rookie season, but he chases the cutter for the second out of the inning. So that'll bring up the designated hitter, Gennaro Miller. Didn't he just throw a 1-2-3 first inning? Yes, he did. Well, he's also at the plate as he grounds it sharply over to third, and the play will be made. So Miller's first plate appearance results in a grounder over to Jonathan Scope. No score through the top of the second. Kyle Tucker draws a walk, so any hope of a perfect game from Gennaro Miller today is down the toilet. Chas McCormick, Westchester's finest, strikes out on the fastball. The catcher, Keibert Ruiz, with 2 away, grounds it to short. Gavin Lux makes the play. And so far, Gennaro Miller looks like the real deal. 2 innings, just 1 base runner allowed, no hits as we move into the third. Neither team has a hit so far, and Gavin Lux will change that as he singles up the middle. So the Marlins have a base runner now for the top of the order. Great opportunity to put themselves on the board. It's Yandy Diaz who grounds it right over to Pena, to Altuve, to Abreu. 6-4-3, another double play, and that'll wrap up the third. Bottom 3, Jose Abreu hitting in the 9-hole, rips it into left for a single. That's the first hit for the Astros today, and now the no-hitter for Gennaro Miller is dead. Impressive that it took them all the way to the bottom of the lineup to get a hit, and sure enough, the next batter, Jose Altuve, grounds into a double play, and that'll end the inning. 3 scoreless for Gennaro Miller on the mound, as this game is still tied up at 0. Will anybody get the scoring started in the fourth, as this has been a pitcher's duel between the 2 lefties? Fortes strikes out on the circle change. Jazz Chisholm up now with 2 away, and he skies this one high and deep into left field. That one is out of here, no doubt about it. A bat flip for Jazz Chisholm, and the Marlins are on the board. I've been kind of expecting Jazz Chisholm to slow down his historic pace, and it hasn't really happened. He's been the most valuable player in all of baseball this year, and I know that sounds like crazy, but it's true. He now has 20 dingers. He leads the MLB in WAR, regardless of league, position, all of that. He has been so good for this team, and he puts them on the board in the fourth. Santander checks his swing, and that'll wrap up the inning. Not a bad frame, though, for the Marlins as they get on the board. Bottom 4, Yordan Alvarez checks his swing on the outside slider. You don't normally fool Alvarez out of his game. And then Kyle Tucker checks swings as well. Another great inning for Gennaro Miller, and that kind of poses the question of how long he's going to go. The Marlins do not want to overwork him, especially considering he's hitting as well today, but he looks dominant. Woody Landry strikes out for a second time. This time he goes down on the curveball for the first out of the inning here in the top of the 5th. And that'll bring up Gennaro Miller, the switch hitter, hitting from the right side of the plate here as he lines this one sharply to first. Then Abreu catches it. That one looked like it could have been his first big league hit, but unfortunately close, but no cigar. Brian De La Cruz will get a hit, though. He rips it up the middle for a single. And with 2 away, the Marlins get themselves another base runner. We'll see if they can look to extend this lead here, as that will bring up Gavin Lux, who got a base hit in his last at-bat. Grounds it over to third. Jonathan Scope makes the play, and that'll wrap up the 5th. Another very solid inning for Framber Valdez, and it remains 1-0. Chas McCormick rips it up the middle for a base hit to start the bottom of the 5th. Just the second hit of the game for the Astros as they start the inning with a base runner. Can this be the inning where they finally get on the board as Jeremy Pena, the former World Series MVP, singles in into right? Now there's 2 on and no away. So Gennaro Miller starting to get rocked a little bit to start the 5th. The Marlins want to keep him in the game, see him get out of the jam as he strikes out Jonathan Schoop. Now there's runners on the corners and 2 away for Abreu. Got him looking! A big strikeout for Gennaro Miller. 5 scoreless in his debut. That'll likely be his final inning on the mound. We'll see if he gets another at bat or not. But regardless, what a great debut for Gennaro Miller. Top 6, top of the order up for the Marlins as Yandy Diaz starts things off with a single into right field, and Miami has an early base runner to open up the 6th. Nick Fortes now up for Miami, 2-1 count, and Fortes grounds it right to second for another double play, 4-6-3. The Astros have gotten like 3 or 4 double plays today. The Marlins have not been good with guys on base whatsoever. Luis Ariz hits this one solidly into center for a hit, and the Marlins have another base runner. Framber Valdez still is going strong, but now he's got to face off against Jazz Chisholm, who homered against him in his last at-bat, and Chisholm gets fooled by the curveball. 6 innings, 1 earned run for Valdez as we move to the bottom of the 6th. Jorge Alcala will enter out of the bullpen for the Marlins. Gennaro Miller can still hypothetically hit, but his day on the mound is done. Alcala strikes out Jose Altuve. Now against the former Marlin, Garrett Hampson. He strikes out on the slider. We'll see if Alcala can strike out the side. Yes, he does. Alvarez looks at the circle change right down the middle. What was he waiting for? And Alcala gets through the 6th. Into the 7th now. Valdez still in the game as Woody Landry hits this one into the opposite field for a base knock. Landry thinks about 2, heads back to first. And so there's a base runner now for what would be Gennaro Miller's spot if he were to stay in the game. We'll see what the Marlins choose to do. The Astros will bring in a reliever. Valdez's day is done. A solid performance from him on the mound, but obviously he got outshined a little bit by our rookie. He'll be replaced by the flame-throwing righty, Hunter Brown. I will say Gennaro Miller is better against righties than lefties, but the Marlins did decide to bring in a pinch hitter as Jesus Sanchez has entered the game. 2-2 count here for Sanchez. He hits this ball high and deep in a right center field. Back at the track, at the wall, it is gone! A 2-run homer off the bench for Jesus Sanchez. And the Marlins lead it 3-0. Sanchez with his 12th homer of the season. He really struggles against lefties. That's why he didn't get the start here. But a righty comes into the game. He'll pop in off the bench, and he makes the biggest play of the night. A big swing for Sanchez, and the Marlins extend their lead. We'll see if they can get anything else going in the 7th as Gavin Lux hits this one well, but it will be caught near the wall out in left field to wrap up the frame. Good inning, though. 2-run homer for Sanchez, and we go to the bottom of the 7th. A.J. Puck is in out of the bullpen for Miami. He has certainly pitched here quite a bit during his time with the Oakland A's as he strikes out Kyle Tucker to start things off. Chas McCormick lines it to short. Nice play by Gavin Lux. I feel like he didn't need to dive there, but it made the catch look cooler, so can't complain. Jeremy Pena now lines this one in the center. That'll go for a hit. So Pena is aboard. We'll see if the Astros can look to cut into this lead a little bit. Keibert Ruiz skies it into left. That one is high into the air. Brian De La Cruz is under it. He will make the catch. And that is now 7 scoreless for the Marlins pitching staff. We'll see if they can complete the win here on the road. Yandy Diaz leads off the 8th, and he thought he drew a walk there, but does not get the call. Diaz amongst the league leaders in walks this year. Instead of a walk, though, he'll take a base hit. He singles into right field. That'll do as well. So the Marlins start the inning off with a base runner. That'll bring up Nick Fortes, who has a hitter's friendly count. The Marlins have grounded into a lot of double plays, so here's potentially another one. 3-6-3. Good job at short by Jeremy Pena. It looked like he kind of struggled to get control of the ball, but he quickly makes the play. And so the Astros turn 2, and we go to the bottom of the 8th. The back end of the bullpen looks to shut things down as Camilo Doval checks into the game for the Marlins. He's had a very good season this year as Abreu hits this one high and deep in a left center, and that one will be caught at the wall by De La Cruz. if the dimensions were a little bit more even compared to the rest of the field, that's probably a homer. Jose Altuve now up, and he strikes out on the slider. A 1-2-3 inning for Camilo Doval, despite a near Jose Abreu dinger. And we will move to the ninth. The former Marlin, Matt Barnes, who has had a great season, is in for Houston. Barnes was traded last year to the Cubs, and he has resurrected his career with the Astros as Anthony Santander strikes out. 2 away now for Woody Landry, scored in his last at-bat as he nearly rips Barnes' head off for a base hit. So Woody Landry is aboard, and that'll now bring up Jesus Sanchez, who with the pinch hit homer back in the 7th inning. He'll stay in the game, get another at-bat, and he might have gotten another one. This one is high and deep into center. McCormick at the track, at the wall, it's caught. That one almost had enough. If that was a more hitters-friendly park, that ball is in the seats, but it does not quite have enough carry. We'll move to the bottom of the 9th now as Liam Hendricks is in for the save. 16 of 20 in save ops this season as Garrett Hampson grounds it short. Lux bobbles it, has to make a quick play, and he does. Garrett Hampson is fast, but Gavin Lux does a good job of quickly recovering to get the out. Yordan Alvarez strikes out. It's been a rough one for Alvarez. He's done nothing today at the plate, and it comes down to Kyle Tucker, the 1-2. He will keep this game alive. This one into right field, and one hops off the wall. Santander gets to it quickly, but Tucker slides into second with a double, and the Astros are going to keep this one going for a little while longer. Now McCormick grounds it to third. Diaz, the throw to first, is in time, and the Marlins win it 3-0. A very strong shutout win here in the big league debut of Gennaro Miller. He goes 5 scoreless on the mound and 0 for 2 at the plate. But Miller looks to be the real deal. I know it's only one start, but to shut out the Astros on the road, that's impressive. Our offense didn't light the world on fire, but they did what they needed to with a solo homer from Jazz and a 2-run homer by Sanchez off the bench. But obviously the story here was the pitching, particularly Gennaro Miller, who was phenomenal. Framber Valdez gets the loss. He did pitch pretty well, but I guess not well enough to get the win. So before we leave this game here, something I noticed as I was looking for screenshots for the thumbnail. So as I look to get one of Gennaro Miller pitching, you may notice that is not Gennaro Miller. That is Jesus Sanchez. Gennaro Miller is so good that he literally broke the game, and they have Sanchez pitching. Jesus Sanchez throws with his right arm, though, so take a look at how he throws it. The ball is released out of the glove as he pitches it. We literally broke the game. Here's another at-bat. Look at Sanchez, the same thing here. He is literally throwing the ball with his glove. Is that not hilarious or what? I ended up opening another save file and getting another picture of Miller pitching, as you'll notice in the thumbnail. But, I don't know, I found that kind of funny. So we win the first game of the series here. We'll see how we do to finish it off on the road. Then we've got a homestand against the Phillies and the Braves. Since we played against the Phillies in the last episode, I kind of want to face off against Atlanta. We ended up sweeping the Astros. Miller did not play in the second game, but in the third game, Gennaro Miller did get his first career hit as we swept him. In the Phillies, in the first game, Gennaro Miller hit his first homer, and in the second game, he hit his first multi-hit game. And then in the third matchup, we won thanks to a very solid performance on the mound from Gennaro Miller. I know he's only been in the big leagues for a week, but this guy seems pretty cool. He's homered, he's gotten 2 wins on the mound, he's gotten a multi-hit game. He's pretty awesome. Before we move any further, though, we're going to do our next prospect profile and then hop into the game against the Atlanta Braves. We're getting pretty close to the draft now, just a couple episodes away. We've gone over some of the top high school players in the class. We've gone over some of the top international players. So today we're going to look at some of the best college players in the draft, and we're really going to be looking particularly at the top of this class because that's where a lot of the talent is. In terms of the depth down the board, most of the players are 18-year-old high school seniors. But in the first couple rounds, we do have some notable college players, particularly in terms of the pitchers. All of the top starting pitchers in this class, at least in terms of projection, are currently playing some form of college ball, whether that's JUCO or a regular 4-year school. We'll start with Ryan Stevenson out of the University of Arizona. He's a 21-year-old lefty who was in heavy consideration to be the #1 overall pick in this year's draft to the New York Mets. There's a lot to like with Stevenson. You're getting a good blend of upside and floor. He's very similar to Mariano Rosas in last year's draft in the sense that he's got a high floor but a high ceiling. The big difference, though, is that Stevenson is 2 years younger. He's a little bit small, 5'11", 170, but it doesn't really matter. He doesn't allow many base runners, particularly his hits per nine is very good, and overall his physical tools are quite solid. There's good reason to think the Mets might take him with their top pick. After Stevenson, though, a lot of these prospects look like potential busts in terms of the pitchers, and our scouts think we should avoid them. Our scouts seem to like some of these JUCO pitchers with Floyd and Franco. We'll start with Darryl Floyd. He's an intriguing 19-year-old pitcher. He decided to enter JUCO rather than declaring for the draft last year, and his stock has really gone up to where he could be in talks to be a top 10 pick. If he slides a little bit, he's going to be very high on the Miami Marlins board with their 15th overall pick. We really familiarized ourselves with Floyd last year on the international circuit, where he was really impressive for USA's under-18 national team. And this year at a JUCO college in Colorado, he's been very, very impressive to where his stock has skyrocketed over the last year or so, and again has played himself into being a top 10 pick. He throws hard, he has pretty good break, and he does not allow walks. Manny Franco is almost just as good. Franco hails from Puerto Rico. He's currently going to a junior college in Illinois, and I think he might be just as good as Darnell Floyd. I think it's a little bit more likely Franco were to fall to the Marlins selection at number 15 overall, another guy who I think is more than good enough to be a candidate with that selection. He's a talented righty who, again, does not allow walks. He has not allowed a single home run this year in JUCO ball and has all around been really impressive. There are not many good college bats, but I do want to look at first baseman Kyle Saul out of Texas Tech. Right now, Saul is very much so the best hitter in this draft class, and I think you could insert him into a major league lineup tomorrow. But there's a reason why he's a projected top 5 pick, and it's not just because of his bat. He's actually a very impressive athlete. He was an all-state linebacker at Allen High School, the same school that Kyler Murray went to, obviously not at the same time. He plays pretty good defense, and obviously, well, he hits tanks. I think Saul's all-around ability makes him really interesting, and if you look at some of the best offensive prospects in recent years, guys like Woody Landry, Augustin De La Cruz, even Isaac Stu this year out of the Dominican Republic, the leg up that Saul has on those guys in the corner infield is that he's a better athlete and a much better defensive player, which is why I think he could be the first or second offensive player off the board. I don't think there's a good shot he falls to the Marlins' first-round pick, but if he does, Miami probably runs that card up. Even though they already have Woody Landry, I think Saul can play the corner outfield spots. We've gone over a number of the top players in this year's draft. In the next episode, we're going to have our official draft preview. We're going to talk about some guys who we've already gone over. We're going to talk about some guys who we have not gone over yet. And then the following episode will be the MLB draft, which I'm very excited about. But for now, we're going to focus our attention back onto the current Marlins. We've got a 3-game set in Atlanta, and I think we've got to play this first game with Sandy Alcantara against Spencer Strider. The Braves have obviously been pretty disappointing this year, but they are playing quite a bit better. And this is a big test for them on the road against the third wild card in the National League. So we've got a lot to show here against one of the best teams on paper in all of baseball with 2 very good pitchers, albeit only one of them has been all that good this season. We'll see how the Marlins can perform here at home against Atlanta. The Marlins struggled against the Braves at the end of May, only winning 1 game out of 3, and they're certainly hoping to perform a little bit better here. We've got this woman throwing out the first pitch. Let's see how she does. She's a lefty, and I think I would have taken that one 450 dead center. So let's take a look at the lineups now. Regular starters across the board for both sides. I don't know who's a better 7-hitter, Matt Olson or Anthony Santander. Regardless, it's crazy having hitters like that hitting 7th. That's how good these teams are. So here's Sandy Alcantara. He won the Cy Young in 2022. He's the current favorite to win the Cy Young this year. He's been the best pitcher in the National League, and we'll see what he can do against a loaded Atlanta lineup as he strikes out Nick Gordon on the slider. Now facing off against Ronald Acuna Jr., one of the best players in the game. He goes down looking on the slider as well. So Sandy retires the side, and we will go to the bottom of the first as we get a look at Spencer Strider, who has not been so good this year. Strider won a Cy Young and an MVP in 2023, but this season things have really gone downhill, and he has not looked like the Spencer Strider that we all know. Gavin Lux leading things off. He strikes out on the fastball. Just because Strider is struggling, though, doesn't mean he isn't one of the best pitchers in the league, and the Marlins might still have some trouble with him as he strikes out Yandy Diaz as well. Top 2. Austin Riley crushes this one into left center field, and that one is into the seats. No doubt about it. A solo home run for Austin Riley, his 16th of the year, and the Atlanta Braves are on the board first as they lead this one 1-0. Sandy's really only kryptonite over the last year or so has been the long ball. He's allowed a few too many homers, but other than that, he has been very, very good. Matt Olson with a single, so that'll give the Braves a runner here. That'll bring up Sean Murphy with 2 away, and he goes down looking on the slider. Good pitch by Sandy Alcantara, but the Braves do get on the board with an Austin Riley homer. Bottom 2, Jazz Chisholm leading things off. Chisholm is still playing at a remarkable level now halfway through the season as he draws an early walk, and the Marlins get their first base runner of the day. That'll bring up the catcher, Nick Fortes. He's gotten the average up to .318. You love to see it, but he strikes out on the circle change for the first out of the frame. Woody Landry is now up. He's continuing to play well, too, getting the average up to .273 while hitting for solid power. Currently the favorite for the NL Rookie of the Year, and he goes down on the fastball. Strider with 4 Ks through 2 innings. Into the third, Vaughn Grissom strikes out. If you remember in the offseason, the Braves offered the Marlins a swap with Vaughn Grissom and Brian De La Cruz, a deal the Marlins, of course, said no to. Nick Gordon grounds it to third. Yandy Diaz makes the play. Nick Gordon not quite as fast as his older brother D, Marlin legend. 1-2-3 inning, and we go to the bottom of the third. Jesus Sanchez leading things off. He's also gotten the average up to .262, but he strikes out as well. Spencer Strider wheeling and dealing. That'll bring up Brian De La Cruz, the guy who the Braves desperately tried to trade for in the offseason, and he goes down looking on the fastball. Good pitch by Strider, and we move into the fourth. Big meat Pete Alonso singles into left field. The Braves stole Alonso from the rival Mets in the offseason in what ended up being a very cheap contract. I don't know how the Braves do it. They signed so many good players to such bargains. Austin Riley draws a walk, so now there's 2 aboard for Ozzie Albies. He strikes out, swinging way too early on the 12-6 curve, and now the inning comes down to Matt Olson, who's had a slightly disappointing season, only 5 homers this year as an everyday player. He skies it into foul territory. Sanchez will make the play, and Sandy Alcantara gets through the fourth. This one remains 1-0. The Marlins still do not have a hit yet. Their only base runner was a Jazz Chisholm walk back in the second inning. Jazz goes down looking on the slider. Another 1-2-3 inning for Spencer Strider as he's got a no-hitter through 4. Of course, Strider chooses to only pitch well against us, I see, as we move into the fifth. Sean Murphy leads things off. He goes down looking on the 12-6. Good pitch by Sandy Alcantara, who has not quite been as good as Strider, but he has still been very solid against a great Braves lineup. Vaughn Grissom goes down looking on the slider for the second out. We'll see if Sandy can strike out the side as he faces off against Michael Harris. Full count, pitch on its way from Sandy. See ya, wouldn't want to be ya. That pitch was right down the middle. What was Harris waiting for? That's as good of a pitch as you're going to get. Bottom 5 now, no-hitter still intact. Nick Fortes leads off the inning, and Fortes hits this one well into center field. Harris at the track at the wall. It is gone! This game is tied up. A solo homer for Nick Fortes. The no-hitter and the shutout is dead. Fortes with his 13th homer of the season, continuing to be, honestly, the best catcher in the game at this point. He just continues to get better and better. Anthony Santander up with 1 away, checks his swing on the fastball. That pitch was in the strike zone, and that'll be a called strike 3. Jesus Sanchez up now. He's got a full count, pitch from Strider, and he will draw a walk. Sanchez has really struggled to draw walks this year. I think that's only his 11th or 12th all season. Could be wrong about that. Brian De La Cruz is up now. We'll see if he can drive him in as he strikes out on the slider. Not a bad inning, though. The no-hitter and the shutout is dead with the Nick Fortes homer as we are knotted up at 1. We'll see how much longer these 2 starting pitchers can go as Nick Gordon strikes out on the circle change. Good pitch by Sandy Alcantara for the first out of the inning. Now facing off against Ronald Acuna Jr. Got him on the slider. Sandy's at around 110 pitches, and he is not slowing down. Full count for Pete Alonso. He got a base hit in his last at-bat. We'll see if Sandy can make it through the 6th with no damage done. as Alonso grounds it up the middle. Luis Arraez will look to make the play, and he will. That was a close one. Good hustle from Alonso. 1, 2, 3 innings, still tied at 1. Only 4 hits combined from both of these teams. Bottom 6, 2 away for Luis Arraez. If there's anybody who's going to get a hit, it's going to be him. He hits that ball decently well, considering he shouldn't have swung at it, but it is a grounder over to second. Albies makes the play. 1, 2, 3 inning for Strider. Sandy Alcantara remains in the game here in the 7th as Austin Riley starts the inning with a base hit. I've got to assume Sandy's going to have a short leash here. The pitch count is starting to get pretty high. It's now over 120 as Ozzie Albies strikes out for out number 1. If Sandy allows another base runner, he could be in some trouble, and there you go. Matt Olson singles into left. Riley heads to third. The throw from Santander is in time! They got him! Nice throw by Anthony Santander for the second out of the inning. He's pretty fired up, and rightfully so. That was a nice play. Sean Murphy is up now. Alcantara ready to throw his 130th pitch of the game as Murphy hits this one well into left field. That'll go for extra bases. We'll see if they try to wave in Olsen, and they will. The throw from Lux to the plate is going to be close, and he is out of there! So the Marlins throw out 2 base runners in that inning. The Braves decided to be super aggressive on the bases, and it backfires in a major way. This game tied up at 1. The Braves will go to the bullpen as well. I'm a little bit surprised by this, especially considering they're going to Joe Jimenez, who has an ERA in the 7s. I get that Strider hasn't been great this year, but he's allowed 1 hit all game. Don't you stick with him here instead of a struggling reliever? Jazz Chisholm draws a walk, his 2nd of the game, so the Marlins have an early base runner, and a speedy one at that. Nick Fortes strikes out on the slider after homering in his previous at-bat. Woody Landry is up now. Big opportunity for the rookie to make a play, but instead he goes down on the circle change. Joe Jimenez is actually pitching pretty well. He now faces off against Tony Taters. Anthony Santander, he's got a 2-2 count. Jazz looks to swipe second, but they got Santander looking on the outside fastball. Joe Jimenez with 3 strikeouts there in the 7th as this game remains tied at 1. So the Marlins will go to the bullpen. Sandy's day is done after 7 innings. He'll be replaced by Reynaldo Lopez, who's had a solid season, but a pretty rough month of June. He'll face off against Michael Harris, the speedster, who grounds it to second. What a play by Arraez, who makes the throw on his knees. Luis Arraez knew he had to work quick. Michael Harris has some wheels. Nick Gordon grounds it over to short. Going to be a close play. The throw from Lux is in time. If that was D. Gordon, he would have been safe, but little brother doesn't quite have the speed genetic that D. Gordon did. Bottom 8, Tyler Duffy is in for the Braves, 4.56 ERA as he faces off against Jesus Sanchez, who hits this one well up the middle for a base hit. Good to see Sanchez with some nice swings today. He's had some good moments this year and some bad ones. It's just about really being more consistent with him as he tries to continue to develop here. Still a lot of room to grow with him at 27 years old. Brian De La Cruz is now up. He has kind of struggled today against the team who really wanted to trade for him, but now he gets a big hit into center. De La Cruz as well has been a little bit inconsistent. He's taken a slight step down after being an all-star last year, but again, good to see him with a big hit there. And now there's 2 runners aboard with nobody out. Gavin Lux with a full count here, top of the order up as he goes down looking on the 92-mile-an-hour fastball. Not the fastest, but it got him. Big at bat here for Yandy Diaz. He's ahead in the count, 3-1, and he draws a walk. So with that, the bases are loaded. But if we've learned anything about this team, they really struggle with the bases loaded. Now, luckily for them, Luis Arraez is at the plate. Perfect opportunity to score as he hits this one to first. Alonso dives on it. He gets the force out at first, but Jesus Sanchez scores. So Arraez does drive in a run, and it's now 2-1. Jazz Chisholm will be intentionally walked. He's now reached base 3 times today without getting a hit, and so the bases are yet again loaded. That'll bring up Nick Fortes, homered earlier today, and he swings at a pitch he should not have. The Marlins have, take a guess, left the bases loaded for the bazillionth time in the series, but we do score a run. It's 2-1 going into the 9th. Liam Hendricks will come into the game for his 18th save of the year. Now, unfortunately for him, he has to face off against the heart of the order. Acuna, Alonso, Riley due up. So Acuna just says, let me end the pain quickly. Ronald Acuna ties it to start the top of the 9th with a solo homer into left center, and we are knotted up at 2. Acuna ties Jazz Chisholm for the National League lead at 20 homers, and so this game is knotted up at 2. Austin Riley gets this one over to Landry. Great defensive play by Woody for the second out of the inning. Good play at first base from Landry, who's not the greatest of defenders, but he makes an awesome play as the LB skies it into left center. Santander calls for it, and he will make the play, but the Braves do keep themselves alive with a solo homer from Ronald Acuna. We'll go into the bottom of the ninth and see if the Marlins can walk it off against Drew Streckenrider, who's in out of the bullpen for Atlanta. We saw Woody Landry get a walk-off in the last episode with a 450-plus foot homer against the Padres. No walk-off homer here for Woody as he flies out into left, and it is caught by Nick Gordon for the first out of the frame. So that'll bring up Jesus Sanchez now with 2 away, and he will go down looking. It feels like Jesus Sanchez goes down looking every episode. I swear to God, he is the biggest strike zone. What vendetta do umpires have against him? Camilo Duvall comes into the bullpen here to start the 10th. Ozzie Albies on second for the Braves as Matt Olson will strike out. That'll bring up Sean Murphy, rips it down the right field line and fair. That'll score Albies, and so the Braves take advantage of the extra innings runner as they will take the lead 3-2. Big swing for Murphy, and Atlanta is now on top. Michael Harris will look to drive him in as he hits it down the line into left. Harris will likely be aboard at second with a double, and so the Braves make it 4-2. A rare, poor outing out of the bullpen from Camilo Duvall. So Atlanta leads by 2 as Gordon grounds it up the middle. Luis Ariz makes the play, but a good inning here from the Braves in the 10th. We'll see if the Marlins can potentially fight back in the bottom half of the inning. They only have 3 hits today. We'll see if they can do it. So into the game for the save will be Dylan Lee. I don't really know why they've made him the closer. His ERA is nearing 5. Look who's into the game off the bench. Gennaro Miller is a pinch hitter, draws the first walk of his big league career. And so the winning run is at the plate with nobody out. It's Gavin Lux. And he lines this one to second. For Christ's sakes, the one thing he couldn't do, he grounds into a double play. Now, luckily, the runner, Sanchez, advances to third, but still not ideal. Yandy Diaz lines it into left. That'll score Sanchez, and it is now a 4-3 ball game. Good at bat for Diaz, tying run on base, winning run at the plate once again, and it's Luis Ariz, one of the best clutch hitters in baseball, as John Birdie will enter the game as a pinch runner. Birdie's got some wheels. Ariz is 0 for 4 today as they're going to throw back at Birdie. I think Lee is a little bit scared of the possibility of John Birdie stealing, and well, I think he's right to be scared. Birdie looks to peg second with the game on the line, and he is safe. So not only is there a runner in scoring position, but now Luis Ariz contact versus lefties rating is replaced by his clutch rating, which is a lot higher, which means it's more likely he gets a base hit. 2-2 pitch. Ariz skies it into left field. I think Gordon should be able to make the play, and he will. The Braves win a really exciting game, 4-3 in 10 innings. A down-to-the-wire matchup. We had the Braves on their heels, but unfortunately we are unable to get the win. Atlanta with 3 runs in the final 2 innings with the homer by Acuna and then the 2 doubles by Murphy and Harris. The Braves only had 1 extra base hit prior to the 9th inning, but those 3 plays pretty much won the game. 6 innings, 1 hit from Spencer Strider. He looked like himself rather than how he's performed all season. I mean, our offense was just not good today. 3 runs, 4 hits, that's not enough. The homer from Fortes was cool. We got some runs late in the game, but it just was not enough. You're not going to win many games with 4 hits in this league. And, I mean, we're kind of lucky that we drove 3 in to begin with. Sandy Alcantara pitched great. The bullpen did kind of blow it a little bit. Hendricks and Duvall, who are normally shut down, those 2 are probably the reason why we lost today. We're going to simulate the rest of the series here against Atlanta, and unfortunately for us, we ended up getting swept. Not ideal. So we are now 40-38. The Braves have climbed back to being just 2 games behind us, and they're hot. They're 8-2. They just swept us, so it seems like Atlanta's back in business. We're 1.5 games behind the 3rd wildcard spot in the NL, so today, here in June, we made no ground. But we didn't lose any ground either. We're halfway through the season, pretty much 40-38. In the next episode, we're going to make it up to the MLB draft. And as I said, we're going to have our draft preview as well. So that should be a lot of fun. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.